time to see whether or not the agreement can fund who the Iranian official is who told him it's trash. It's just assumed that the regime, the IRGC, has said this. Because they're the ones that are controlling and running the show. Incog Faraday coming in and gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Thank you very much, sir. MacDad in the house, as always, gifting out 99. And Nova Estrella says, Matt, I could use some prayers from you and chat. Injured my neck at work 9 days ago. Oh, man. Still in a lot of pain and haven't been back since. Need an MRI. Well, Nova, the MRI is very, very telling. I had back injury for a very long time due to my military service, and they ended up taking x-rays and all sorts of stuff of it, and they were like, yeah, your back's probably fine. It's not a big deal. You got a spur. It looks like it might be a little bit jacked up here, but it's healing, it's healed. I went and got an MRI done, ended up, this is years after I got out, and ended up discovering that my two discs in between my L3 and L4 and L4 and L5 were ripped completely, totally in half. So the MRIs are very telling, and x-rays, honestly, they do their part, but they're not complete. So yeah, you will most certainly be in my prayers, and you'll be okay. I mean, honestly, I'm in pain every day sitting in this chair. If you guys see me like switching up and down and all of that other stuff, it's because my back is just like constantly throbbing. But you'll be all right. I'm still pretty dang active, and I try to keep it up. So you'll be all right. All right, so let's keep on keeping on. So the Iranian foreign minister, like I said, had gone over to China, and Trump is scheduled to go meet with Xi. I find this kind of odd that we have the Iranian foreign minister going over to China right before Donald Trump is scheduled to go. Now, Donald Trump has came out and he has stated that he is not going to be negotiating with the Iranian regime over inside of Pakistan. But oddly enough, here we have regime officials flying over to China the week before the United States goes. And so it makes me wonder whether or not the foreign minister is actually dropping off messages to China to give to Donald Trump when he comes. Iran is refusing to call the United States of America.
Have you got any suggestions without breaking the law?
The way this works and what happens, there is no negotiation that takes place because the Ayatollah is the one that gets to sign off on everything. The Ayatollah is the one that controls the IRGC and the Artesh, the Iranian military. So if the Ayatollah is controlling them, and the IRGC is the one that's acting out right now in the Strait of Hormuz, which, again, they've started acting up again, and they're also lying and spreading rumors that it was Saudi Arabia that ended up attacking the UAE yesterday. Just FYI, it was Saudi Arabia, according to them. They didn't do it. It was Saudi Arabia. So now we've got to deal with the regime. These regime officials that ended up going over to China very likely ended up passing off a note and or a letter because that's how it's always been done. Before the war kicked off, there was a letter that got passed off from Khomeini over to a Gulf state, and the U.S. had to send it over Steve Witkoff to go pick it up. And then, same thing happened in Pakistan. And this last time that the regime announced they were making a trip through Pakistan, allegedly they dropped off a letter from the United States. And that's when Donald Trump said, we're not sending our diplomats on an 18-hour trip over to Pakistan to make a letter with something that's probably going to be unacceptable. My phone's on, they can freaking call me, but here's the problem. From what the rumors state, the current Ayatollah is in a hospital bed. He's nonverbal. He's in and out of consciousness, in a coma, and he's just passing off written letters. Kind of odd that he's passing off written letters, though, isn't it? Because if he was truly alive, you would think at some point we would get a proof of life, but we haven't got it. Same thing for the current IRGC commander. So it's kind of odd here that they're refusing to have any direct talk, any direct negotiation. Instead, everything is being passed word of mouth. This is
That's
another
okay.
sign that
I'll
the
put
U.S.
it on this
really doesn't have a deal with Iran, and instead what we're actually seeing is manipulation of the stock market, as I just showed you guys earlier. And as you pointed out, yes, these prices are futures contracts. They are for 60, 90 days down the road, but they're dropping. And we're dealing with that kind of like as it goes. So, what does this actually look like? Like, what is Iran actually saying? Well, let me just give you a direct quote. All right, this is from the Iran embassy in Austria. And again, the Iranian embassies seem to be putting out more information than the actual regime itself. Believe it or not, this is kind of how it works. And I've seen a unified message across all of the different Iranian embassies for what it is that they are stating, as they go out. The latest interview with Marco Rubio, the so-called Secretary of State of the U.S. regime, was a sickening cocktail of hip-hop.
Dead River Company, showing up for our customers, keeping them warm when it matters most, is what we do. Right now, new propane customers get up to 100 free gallons, plus a low 3-year fixed price when you make the switch. Learn more at deadriver.com.
Proudly bragged about the shipping of weapons to those same Iranian protesters. Peaceful protests, that's a joke. They brought this up, by the way. That Donald Trump said this yesterday, that it would be nice to be able to arm the protesters, that we tried to get them in there, but the Kurds ended up stealing them. Well, he's waiting to confirm that the Kurds have actually stolen them. We don't know what happened to them, but they were supposed to go to the Kurds. And then, theoretically, the Kurds would then funnel them over into Iran. And we're talking about the Kurds inside of Iraq, all right, that were supposed to receive those weapons and then funnel them over into Iran. Iran here is now spinning that, claiming that we armed those protesters, but they killed them. Just for context. 3. He lectured us on freedom of navigation under international law, but the very first principle of international law is non-aggression. The U.S. and Israel have shredded every single article of that law in their aggression against Iran. Here's the other thing. Other Iranian embassies have came out, and you guys will see here in a minute, and started claiming that the UAE, Iraq, and all of the other countries better kick the U.S. out. Because if you're hosting the aggressive nation, or if you're hosting, the aggressor nation, that opens you up to attacks underneath the international law. Now, Iran's not talking about all of the different proxies that they end up funding around the region, because if they did, then Israel has every single freaking right to attack them. There are proxies that they host over inside of Iraq. There are proxies that they host over inside of Lebanon. There are proxies that they host in Gaza and in Yemen that have attacked U.S. troops, U.S. service members, and Israelis by their own admission of guilt. Allow the United States to be the aggressor and actually go after them and freaking kill Iran on their home turf. But they don't want to have that conversation. Rubio dares to talk about real diplomatic path with Iran. Does he think we've lost our memory? The U.S. bombed Iran twice in the middle of ongoing negotiations.
I know, he gave that.
I want you to think about that.
That toy, and he had
twice,
given it to
allegedly, during negotiations, the U.S. has bombed Iran.
I think he regretted it after. I think in the
They're
moment,
not lying. They're absolutely correct. We did it
good
at
feeling
the end,
of
like at the start of the 12-day war. We did it at the start of this war.
That they really like and want.
And again, the United States is claiming that we have negotiations with them, that we have some sort of a freaking plan that we're kicking out, that we're really close. And by the way, that plan allegedly, and this is how you know that it's like crap and it's garbage. Allegedly, the plan involves Iran giving up 400 kilograms of enriched uranium, reducing enrichment to 3.5%, but still holding on to another 60 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium.
I think he still regrets that one.
The answer is no. Trump's been stating from day one, Iran is not allowed to enrich uranium. There will be no deal if Iran continues to try to enrich uranium. So the only logical explanation, if that is something the U.S. has thought about, is that Trump is manipulating the stock market. We're not close to the deal if that's the case. We're far away from it. And Iran's had the same exact stance this entire time, that they are not going to give up their right to enrich uranium. That's freaking nuts. They continue on. Like his boss, Trump, Rubio mistakes thuggish barking for strength. Every diplomat learns the first lesson: speak with respect. What a tragedy that a brute like Rubio now sits atop America's diplomatic machinery. Incog Faraday, big fan of bombing Iran while we continue to negotiate with them a third time in a row. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Iran has since came out and stated, oh man, do I have this? Please. Oh yeah. No, we don't. I didn't put it up here. They have since came out and stated, the regime has,
really popular,
that they are more than willing to bomb the United States, to open up attacks on the United States and our allies before the U.S. actually visits China.
Not one,
which is
but
next
two,
week.
but three.
So now the regime is basically giving a deadline, saying that by mid next week, prior to, they are more than willing to initiate attacks. What's more is they've actually came out and stated even more control over
the black,
Strait
white, and
of
striped.
Hormuz, and they've made new demands. Get this, they have made new demands for the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, the kidney black beans.
All signs, minus some leaked information allegedly from the White House, point to wars on the horizon. But the stock market is falling. The oil prices, the future prices for oil price per barrel is falling today. It's almost like somebody is trying to manipulate the stock market. Imagine that. There is no sign, I mean literally none. This is Iran's president. We Muslims have already surrendered to the Almighty. And no one else can force us to surrender. In a phone conversation with the Prime Minister of Iraq, I emphasized that you should advise the American officials to withdraw their military threats from our region because the followers of the Shiite school cannot be compelled to surrender, even with the language of force. This is the president of Iran speaking. By the way, he put this out yesterday. You guys can see it right down here at the bottom. That's when he made that statement, was yesterday. Do we really think that they have changed that much? This was yesterday afternoon our time. If Axios is getting some sort of, information from the White House stating that we are very close to a deal, but Iran wants us to withdraw from the UAE, from Qatar, from Bahrain, from Iraq, or else they're going to attack, we're not close to a deal. If Iran wants to continue to enrich uranium, we're not close to a deal. This is the point I'm trying to make. He made this statement yesterday afternoon. Axios ends up getting the information, a couple hours later maybe, of what these negotiations supposedly take place, and then they dump their article early this morning. The announcement of Trump ends up coming out early this morning, and it's almost like it was timed. And yet these statements from Iranian officials are completely and totally opposite of what the United States is saying. And I've seen the same dang thing. This is a repeated process that we're seeing with the Trump administration, right? Over inside of Gaza, where he was announcing that we have the board of peace, right? Where we're going to somehow make peace with Hamas. Didn't freaking happen. They're still over there fighting and dying and attacking. They're refusing to give up their weapons. Inside of Lebanon, where allegedly we have a ceasefire agreement, but here's the thing, there is no ceasefire agreement. Notice how the White House hasn't, there was a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. But Israel's not fighting Lebanon, they're on Lebanese territory. They're fighting Lebanese Hezbollah, or Hezbollah, the Hezbollah. The group that's the largest non-state terror organization in the world, funded by the largest state sponsor of terror, Iran. That's who Israel's fighting, and it hasn't stopped. It's still ongoing. They're trading fire every single day. Israel's continuing to clear out. They had their ground force commander visiting troops over inside of Lebanon, and the ground force commander told them that their responsibility is to clear out all of the threats that are attacking Israel, and that they have the entire backing and full might of the Israeli Defense Force in order to accomplish it and make it happen. That doesn't sound like a country that is looking for a ceasefire. And Iran has stated time and time again that there will be no ceasefire agreement without a cessation of hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah. So what are we really looking at here? Well, we're looking at announcements with no factual information behind it. So when they're putting this stuff out and they're stating that we have, an agreement with Iran, they're stating that we have an agreement with Lebanon. Realistically, what we don't have is any agreement whatsoever. And I have been just chomping at the bit trying to find something factual that will support these claims from the United States, that will support the claims from the Trump administration. That will, hell, dude, I've been trying to find anything factual that'll support this at all, other than the fact that we might bomb the crap out of it. That's something that we can substantiate. The amount of freaking refueling tankers that have been in the air and the amount of U.S. assets that have been moving into the Middle East most certainly substantiate Trump's last statement that if they don't agree, the bombing will start, and it will be, sadly, a much higher level of intensity than it was before. That's the only substantiating thing in this entire statement, that the United States has moved enough assets into the region to bomb the living crap out of Iran. Not that there's going to be a cessation on hostilities. Because, by the way, hostilities even took place yesterday when we had Apache helicopters take out multiple fast boats of Iran's after they tried to attack merchant vessels. 7, in fact, is what the United States claimed. But Iran flipped around and said, no. The United States ended up targeting civilian vessels, 2 civilian vessels, and killing 5 civilians. That's what Iran claimed. So we have contradicting statements from the United States and from Iran. And so either Iran is lying about this, which their narrative has been set in stone, or Trump's doing what he has been doing, where he makes a clear statement and he says, this is what's happening. And then the stock market's manipulated, then we see a different action. That's more than likely what's taking place, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't like the Iranian regime at all. Those of you that know me know I hate Islamist extremists. You also know that I voted for Trump. My job is to give you the truth. And right now, the truth is that it appears that we're manipulating the stock market. That's what the truth points to. The Iranian regime has been very firm that they are going to maintain their right to enrich uranium. The United States has been very firm that they're not going to be allowed to do it. So clearly we have some sort of miscommunication here. And Trump, by the way, let's take for reference when he first tried to make deals with Russia last year, and he thought he was going to get somewhere.
Walmart's $500 million
he ended up
every day
being very pissed off and calling Putin out immediately for violating, what Trump said was the deal that he had. The day Trump announced last year that they had an agreement with Russia, and it was very positive and it was moving forward, Putin and his freaking commie forces ended up attacking Ukraine like it was nobody's business. Launched one of the largest attacks at the time. Trump came out with some very damning statements. When Iran's doing this, we don't hear those damning statements. When Trump's making these claims, we don't hear those damning statements. As a matter of fact, Marco Rubio was walking back yesterday in the press house briefings trying to state that, well, they haven't really attacked us, let's be honest, they just sent a couple merchant vessels. It's not really the big, the big to-do about this whole thing. No, that's freaking crap. And it's not just the president, we also have different Iranian mouthpieces. When I talk about state media, this guy, Marandi, right, Saeed Marandi, he's actually a U.S. citizen, claims to be a doctor, and he lives over inside of Tehran. And I say he is a U.S. citizen. He's actually Iranian as well. But he lives there. He's technically a dual citizen. If this guy ever comes back to the United States, he would get arrested. He is a mouthpiece for the Iranian regime. Take a look at this statement from just a few hours ago. 3 hours ago. Trump, Witkoff, Kushner, and their cronies have made a lot of money over the past few hours from the fake news they fed to Axios for publication. I actually agree with him. I hate this dude, but I actually agree with him. Somebody made a hell of a lot of money. I've seen freaking news about oil being, the oil futures price being shorted and stuff like that prior to Axios releasing that article, like millions of freaking contracts. Which is nuts. And as classic stock market manipulation, this is how freaking Congress ends up making a buttload of money. This is how MTG ends up making 17,000%, or I'm sorry, not MTG, Nancy Pelosi, 17,000% return on her freaking, stocks while she was over there. Also, from this morning, just want to throw this out there. Iran's Tasnim news agency says U.S. memorandum to end the war includes clauses Tehran considers unacceptable. That news agency that they quote right there is the official news agency of the regime. It is a freaking mouthpiece of the regime. If they say the U.S. memorandum includes things that are unacceptable, that is the IRGC stating that it is unacceptable. We don't know who in the IRGC, because like I just previously explained, we don't even know if the current IRGC commander is still alive. We have nothing other than government think tanks that have actually came out and stated that we think this is who's running the IRGC, because the person that runs the IRGC, by the way, and this is why, is appointed by the Ayatollah. Let's make that clear. The commander of the IRGC is appointed by the Ayatollah. And the old commander got killed on the same day that the freaking Ayatollah got killed. And then allegedly we have the Council of Experts vote in the new Ayatollah who's laying in a hospital bed and can't speak. He can just write things down. How the hell did that guy appoint the new commander of the IRGC? We have no idea who's running this crap. And when we start talking about the Parliament Speaker Golubov being ripped down from power when he made a bad deal with the United States that pissed off the IRGC, he's no longer negotiating. He's off the negotiating team. Somebody's running that country from within, almost as like a military state. Incog Faraday says 2,000 watchers, less than 400 likes. Pick it up, slackers. Yeah, better like this channel. You better follow it as well, and you better share the video, because what we're talking about right now is quite literally, how do I want to say, we're going to war again, and it's going to be bad. And Iranians, believe it or not, are going to be the ones that are hurting. If you think your fuel costs are really high, I'm going to explain to you why they're not that bad in comparison to what the Iranian people are dealing with. I ran some numbers earlier today, and late last night, believe it or not, I was up until like 12:30 at night last night, 1 o'clock in the morning, running freaking numbers and doing research. Trump says that the sanctions are hurting. Trump says that maximum pressure, you guys know maximum pressure, we talk about maximum pressure, that maximum pressure has a very real effect on the ground over inside of Iran. Very real effect. And it's not so much affecting the regime as it is affecting the people on the ground. Dylan McLeod says Whiskey Tango Foxtrot is going to take what? Whiskey Tango Foxtrot is going to take for Trump to realize you cannot make a deal with these radicals. Dylan, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. Trump knows he can't make a deal with them. We're prolonging things right now. When I said that Trump, when he made the agreement with Putin last year, allegedly, and Putin launched a major attack, and he came out with like words of condemnation immediately following, but we don't see that same pattern here. We don't see that same pattern in Gaza. We don't see that same pattern with Lebanon. We don't see any of that crap. We really don't. I think they are making crap up, leaking information in the news, trying to manipulate the stock market. That's what I think. I think the regime has been very clear about what their stance is, and I think even the Trump administration has been very clear about what their stance is. And at no time have those two things ever freaking wavered on either side. And yet, for some reason, we are seeing people trying to claim that there is an agreement that's coming out. And it's just not the case. And we look at facts, like we look at things like this. Iran establishing yesterday the Persian Gulf Strait Authority and coming out with new demands and new things that they actually want to see happen. We thank the captains and owners of the ships based in the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman for their cooperation in transiting the Strait of Hormuz in accordance with Iranian regulations and vessels' favorable participation in regional maritime security, with the end of threats from aggressors and under new procedures. This is not the Strait of Hormuz being opened. This is quite literally the opposite. This is the IRGC controlling the Strait of Hormuz and demanding from the international community that they abide by everything they're stating. Not only are they now demanding that in order to transit the Strait of Hormuz along their routes in order to not be attacked, you gotta pay in the rial. If you are one of the aggressor nations in this, and by aggressor nations, there any nation that is housing the United States of America, they're not only demanding basically a surcharge of all of this crap, in addition to the tariff that they're charging to be paid in the rial, which is a crashing currency. We're going to talk about it in a minute. But they're also demanding reparations get paid from the ship. The ship has to pay reparations. The shipping company has to pay reparations before it can get allowed through, and that is going to be on top.
off trafficking offense.
They have made some wild demands. Truffle juice, banana blast. Ooh, I like that one, man. Heck yeah, dude. Yeah, for those of you guys that don't know, we've got we're going to develop our own flavor for you guys of Bravo Energy pouches to sell like freaking hotcakes, and we're going to be voting on them. Right?
At Planet Fitness, we know how important
they're going to be selling like hotcakes.
it is to take care of both
And
your
now's
mind
probably the time
and
to let
body.
you guys know.
That's why now,
Thank you for that super chat,
May
Josh.
15th, all new members get free
Channel
massage
sponsored by Bravo
amenities
Energy
all month
pouches.
long.
It's an American company.
Drink $1 down, $15 a
Caffeine
month,
pouches.
no commitment.
15
Until
milligrams of
ends May
caffeine per pouch, 20 pouches per can. I talk about it every single day.
I need to
Probably
prioritize
Tucker talks
myself
about whatever
and
trash it is that he sells. It's caffeine. 100% food grade ingredients made here in the United States of America, not overseas. And today when you use code TRUTH at bravoenergypouches.com, link in the description down below, you get 10% off. But additionally, when you purchase using code TRUTH today, you are entered to win a $1,000 Visa gift card. I'm sending that sucker out next week to whoever it is that ends up winning it. What is today? Wednesday? I think today's Wednesday, right? So you got today, tomorrow, and Friday. And one of you guys is going to end up getting a $1,000 Visa gift card just for going over, using code TRUTH, and making a purchase at bravoenergypouches.com. And they've got all sorts of different flavors, and we're about to have our freaking own, believe it or not.
It's actually entering an entirely different problem.
It's coming.
It isn't even
ladies and
related
gentlemen.
to money at this point. They have a problem where
So
you
far,
can't
we've
just
given
stop
away
the production
multiple.
from a
I think a grand total of
from an
10
Iranian. I'm sorry.
years supply of Bravo Energy pouches on this channel in the last month.
Yeah, exactly. From an
And
Iranian.
now we're giving away $1,000
that is something that
just for going over and trying these things out. And watch the freaking chat below if you guys think I'm lying about how well these things work. Watch the chat below. Every single soul in there that's Adam is going to tell you that they get you
water is leaking.
It is way better than a cup of coffee.
The
Yeah, I'm
mix
sipping
and
on
then
coffee because it's a
the
habit.
oil.
And years
And
of
so
making
the
it.
twist out it, it's harder to do it,
However,
right?
it doesn't hold a
It
candle
takes
to
time and
having
money.
caffeine
And then really
mainlined
that's the issue.
right in your bloodstream.
There is a way
I love
if
these things to
you
death.
can
If you
settle
have
it,
somebody that's a first responder
show you
in
how
your family,
high,
if you have somebody that's in the
oil
military,
storage
if you're looking for a
silos
gift,
are good.
stocking stuffers,
And so
whatever,
the lid
dude,
goes
go
up
over
and
and get it
down
because
with
you
oil
don't
levels.
get a crash afterwards. It's probably my
The
favorite
Iranians are
part.
running out of space
But it's
to
this
store the
nice,
oil.
steady release of caffeine.
There's different
You don't have to worry
estimates.
about it, man.
One said it was
Love them
supposed
to
to happen
death.
today, another
Absolutely
said it's
love
happening in
that.
3 days.
And by the way,
whatever,
if
it doesn't
you
really
know
matter.
where you order
Let's say
using code
within a
TRUTH,
week
also
of the
support the
Iranians
channel.
running
Go
out
to
of space
bravoenergypouches.com.
to store oil,
Use
we
code
see the
TRUTH.
satellite imagery of the Iranians trying to hide oil
When you
or store oil.
order
These
using code
ancient
TRUTH,
tankers that
enter
they
to
pulled out of,
win
some hidden
$1,000
base
gift card.
somewhere
That's
because they have
sent out
nowhere to
next
put the
week.
oil. Their
That's
hope,
tough. It's a hell of a deal. I'm so happy when they're announcing that and bringing it up.
their hope
Super
is
pumped
that
to be able to do that for you guys.
this ends fast
Yeah,
enough for them to be able
good
to
choice,
export
yeah.
oil. There's a financial element to it of being able to make money again, but also, as you mentioned, and filled in for me there, my phone was ringing once more.
I'm blown away. So
Their
I
hope
wanted to
is
tell
that
you guys about the
before they
pressure
have
that's actually
long-term
taking
How about
place
those
on
nets?
to their wells. The Iranians
What's
have
actually
publicly
happening
said in
around
recent
there.
weeks that they
The
know how to
pressure
fix
over
it.
inside of
Look,
Iran
if
is
the
huge.
Americans, the Canadians,
Where
and
all
every
this
other country in the world
crash.
that
That was the
produces
whole
oil
reason
and
for the
steel
protests
says
back in
it's a huge
December and
problem.
January.
I'm going to take their word from it and not think that the Iranian engineers have outsmarted everyone else and make
is
us
what
oil.
the Trump administration is
Produces
not
oil.
doing.
So yeah, they have a financial problem.
Before
They have
the
an
internet
issue.
was actually shut
As
off.
to your second
It's
question,
well over 80,000, well over 100,000 back.
other factions that we were expecting to rise up and fight against the Iranian regime, we haven't seen them materialize.
Those protests
Rumors
were taking
and
place
images,
before the
there
U.S.
have been
decided to
videos
go in and bomb them.
in
Before
reality,
this war was taking place.
The Ayatollah regime,
And it
the
was
IRGC,
all
controlling
because
Iran. In reality,
of the
the only
crash of the real,
substantial amount
Iranian
of what
currency,
we would call opposition
and how much they
forces
actually
that
had.
was pushing against the
Now,
Iranian
Iran's
regime,
figures,
or
like I
into
told you
Iran, I
guys,
should say,
Trump said
was
maximum pressure
pro-Iranian
is working.
militias from
Define
Iraq.
working.
We haven't
Put this
seen
picture up on the screen. It's not going to
substantial
look like
movement
very much to
of
you.
Kurdish rebels. We haven't seen
But it
substantial enough
has very
of any
specific
one of the many
meaning. It's
minorities
chicken.
within Iran. And
Why
we
would I
know
put chicken
from
on the
multiple
screen?
sources that the
Chicken on
United
the screen
States
for
and
a
other
reason.
entities have tried to equip and
This
pay
is chicken.
and to coerce these entities to
If
fight
I'm going to
against them.
equate it to
But
anybody in
simply
here, I want you guys to know,
isn't
median U.S.
Simply
income
isn't
is right
working.
around
That's
$64,000
the reality we're dealing with right
a
now,
year,
where
annually.
there's
Make
a
around
hope that
$64,000 on average here in the United States as
Okay, so Monday, how can people pray for the situation?
Well,
If
one,
I
I'd
was
say
to
pray for the
purchase
people
this
of Iran.
chicken
They're the ones suffering
in the United
most over
States,
here.
making $64,000 a
Secondly,
year,
pray
on
for
the
the
Iranian
government
equivalency,
change.
it would cost me about
Of
$500
course,
to
pray for the
$700.
leadership. Pray for President Trump.
$500 to $700 currently on
Pray
the
for
Iranian
the
market.
people of Israel. Pray for the men and women in
Average
our,
Iranian
in
only
our
makes
country
about
that are
110 to
doing
150
diligently
US
day and
dollars
night to protect this
equivalent.
country.
That's it.
And of course, the
110
American
to
men and
150
women that are
US dollar
protecting
equivalent.
and fighting the world's war in the Middle East right now.
With
That's
all
really
of the
what it
sanctions,
is.
with the
The
crashing
armed
real,
forces, the
with
United
everything
States
that's taking
people
place.
and the Israeli Israeli people that are fighting on behalf of the global population.
It's only, what,
against the
about
biggest evil of
10
our
to
time.
15 US dollars over inside of Iran? But you have to understand that in context, when they only make $150
Well,
a
thank
month,
you
that's
so
the
much,
equivalent of you paying $500 for chicken.
explaining all the situation.
I made
Definitely
a
a
post
very,
about this morning,
very
and some
important
Iranian
day
commented it's pretty
in the
bad.
war against Iran.
Their monthly
and we'll
income,
see what happens
they're lucky
next,
if
what
it even
Donald
lasts
Trump will
a
do
week
next,
over there
what
right
the
now.
Iranians will do next.
Now,
Thank you so much, Mike.
Iran put out multiple
And
propaganda
all of
videos
you
last
that
week
are
with
joining
some
us
people that I'm about
now,
to show you,
we are TV in Israel,
saying
we
that the
report
price
every
of fuel
single
inside
day
Iran
here
is
on
dirt cheap
YouTube
for the first 90
twice
liters.
since this war started.
Because it's subsidized
about
by
what's
the
happening
government.
in
You
the
can
war
fill up your
against
tank for
Iran,
like 15 or 20
about what's
cents
happening in the
over
war
inside of
against
Iran with the
Hezbollah,
government
Hamas,
subsidized fuel
and
prices.
basically everything that
That's great.
affects this region.
But once you start
from a
talking about
biblical
food, it totally
perspective,
changes.
from
Bread, for
Jerusalem,
example,
so that you will know how to pray for the
costs
situation.
$1.40
How can you help
to
us?
$1.90
You can hit the
on
subscribe
the market.
button, and you can share this video with as many people as possible. Because
That
many
is
Israelis are
absolutely
still
insane.
juggling their
That's
reserve
between
use.
$60 and $80 equivalent for your average American to go and buy a loaf of bread. For somebody that makes 64 grand a year, that'd be like paying $80 for a freaking loaf of bread.
And the pressure
over inside
doesn't
Iran.
stop when the uniform comes off.
That's nuts.
I've been
Within
there,
itself.
coming home from
Absolutely
reserves,
nuts.
trying to be present
Now,
for my
Iran does
family,
subsidize
catching
food.
up in
They
full,
subsidize
while still
bread, they
feeling like I'm
subsidize
in a
rice, they
survival mode.
subsidize fuel,
It
and they
takes
subsidize
strength,
chicken.
energy, and
But
faith
the problem
to
is
push
that
through.
they don't
And
have
that's
it.
why I started
They don't
using
have
Vimeo.
enough, and the people
It's
can't
an Israeli
get in line
supplement
fast enough.
made
And if they're
from
lucky
red
enough to
grape
get to the
cells
front of the
that
line
help improve the blood flow to your
before
heart,
it closes,
your brain,
they
and
might
your
pay the
muscles.
subsidized price.
For me, that meant better focus,
But people
more
are
energy,
legitimately
and
flipping
fewer
chickens
days of that
in blood.
foggy, burnt out
Because you
feeling.
can get your subsidized stuff for dirt
I
cheap
stopped
and then turn
using
around
it
and it's
during my
going on the
reserve
open air
tour,
market for
and I'm still taking
exorbitant
it
amounts.
today.
How
I
long
like
do you
also
think
the
the
coffee
Iranian
version, you can
economy
take
can
the morning,
last with
or
what's
the
going on
tea
over there?
version, and
Truth
they
is,
also have
it's not
this
going to.
powder
Operator Error
that you
says
mix up
ordered from
in
Bravo
your
this
water,
morning.
like
I need some pirate pouches.
very, very
banana and
refreshing drink.
rice, dude.
But if you
I
want to
don't
give
know
it
if
a
I
try
would
for
enjoy
yourself,
bananas and rice flavor.
you
That
can go
sounds
to
ridiculous. I know
vinyattvnisrael.com.
we talked about
Again,
it.
that's
Dear God.
vinyattvnisrael.com.
Yeah, the arbitrage on chickens. If you guys figure out how to get to Iran, just take a boatload of chickens over there.
Again,
You're
that's
gonna make a freaking killing.
vinyattvnisrael.com or
Absolute
800-638-1944.
Yeah, there was no subsidies
Faith
on
helps
pork.
me stay grounded, and Vinya helps
Nailed
me
it. No
stay
subsidies
sharp.
on pork. Anyways,
The cargo
point
ship
being
was
is that
attacked
if
in
Iran
the
was
Strait
really
of
winning the
Hormuz,
war, and if
just
life in Iran
as
was
the
so
world
good,
was
they would
trying
have
to
been talking
understand
about
whether
oil.
the war against Iran was truly
and
approaching
the
its
cost of
end
fuel.
or not.
They're trying
The
to
Revolutionary
piss
Guard
off
warned
the West.
every vessel,
And it's very important
anyone
to,
who
like,
does not pass
recognize that
the
crap
Iranian
and don't piss
corridor
off the West,
risks a
because that's what
military
they're trying to
response.
do. They're
And
trying
in
to make it
Washington,
unfavorable
President Trump
for
is
the United
temporarily
States to continue this
pausing
war and to continue to
Project
shut down the
Freedom,
Strait.
while
That's
keeping the
what's driving
blockade
oil
on
prices
Iran
up
at
last
full
week after they
strength.
released those videos. And
So what is really happening
learned
is,
that you only pay
is
like
this the
20
beginning
cents
of an
for a tank of
agreement
gas in
or
Iran
just
for the
a
first
short
90
pause
years anyways.
for the next round?
After that, we won't even talk about
I'm
it.
Yair Pinto, and this is your
That
boots on the
price is
ground
actually
report
probably gonna drop
and the
because
war
they can't
between
export
Israel
oil
and the United
to
States
offer.
against
They're gonna
Iran
refine it.
and the
But we're
Revolutionary
taking out,
Guard,
like,
which is
their
the head
ability
of
to
the
refine
crumbling
their oil.
axis of
We
evil
actually
in
took
the
out a
Middle
lot
East.
of their ability to refine
This
their
night
oil.
begins
So
in one place,
it's
the
going to get
Strait
worse
of
for them.
Hormuz. It is a narrow passage,
But they put
crowded,
that out in order to try to
dangerous,
piss off the
and now
American people because
full of
our
threats.
cost is going up.
A cargo ship
They're trying to
reports
show
an
that they have
attack.
subsidized
The
costs.
Revolutionary
They're
Guards
selective about
issue
the
warnings.
information they're sharing.
Commercial
They're trying to
vessels
put pressure
wait
on
for
the United States
instructions,
government to actually
and
make a
between
deal
the
and get out of
Iranian
it. The thing
coast
is,
and the
Trump
coast
doesn't
of
care about
Oman,
at all.
every radar signal,
Additionally,
every speedboat,
since
and
the
every
ceasefire
drone
began, they brought over
can
this
turn
one's from the gray zone.
within
He's
seconds
going to, I forget the name of this bridge, it's the massive one outside of
move was
Tehran
supposed to
that ended up getting bombed. It was supposed to
Project
be like the
Freedom
largest bridge
was
in the Middle
designed
East.
to escort the commercial ships that were
Again,
trapped
this is
in
the
the
gray
Persian
zone.
Gulf
So I want
after
you guys to know
Iran
it's like
turned
gray zone
Hormuz
and this
into
next
its
lady that I
main
have. I forget her
bargaining
damn
chip.
name. She drives
The
me
United
nuts as
States
well.
opened a secure maritime route,
For those of you guys that have been around for a while, you remember me talking about the sports complex. You guys have been following the channel, and we were
This
following
strait
the war.
will
The
not
sports
become the
complex in Tehran
property
had
of the
a bomb that the
Revolutionary Guard.
IRGC tried claiming
But then Trump
the
did
United
what
States
Trump
massacred
often
civilians
does.
for no reason, and I showed
Changed the
videos
pace.
on the ground.
Only
It was
2
nothing
days
but
after the
IRGC,
operation began,
besieged
the
forces
president
that were
announced a
occupying
short
that sector. It was a
pause.
staging point for them,
According to him,
to where they were
the
going around
request
and
came
killing
from
protesters.
Pakistan and other countries, while
Listen to
major
the crap that they
progress
have to
was
spend.
being made towards an agreement
My staff
with
here
Iranian
think they're wrong.
representatives.
Where
But he emphasized one important point. naval blockade on Iran's ports remains in force.
Oh, by the way,
This
this
is not
lady
a
is also the
retreat.
one that had the
This
viral
is a
video
pause
about the price
with
of
a
oil.
gun
Just
still
wanna throw
on the
that out there.
table.
Sports
Iran watched
essentially a
2003.
sports stadium.
The regime propaganda outlet declared that Trump had surrendered, the United States had failed, and that the Revolutionary Guard had succeeded in deterring the American Navy.
in the morning.
But we must be careful with that picture. The regime, under heavy economic pressure, must sell its public victory, even when in reality it is still being choked. Secretary of State Marco Rubio explained it sharply. Operation Epic Fury, the direct American pause against Iran, the Operation Freedom, it's over. Its objectives were achieved. The United States prefers the path of peace. But at the same time, Rubio says that the blockade on Iran is costing Tehran up to $500 million a day in lost revenue, and that 90% of Iran's total trade has been stopped. This is not just an economic statistic. This is pressure on the life engine of the regime. Iran needs to sell oil. It needs to hold up its currency. It needs to pay its security forces. It needs to calm citizens, provide water, control the prices, and also preserve the fear in the streets. When ports are blocked, storage tanks are filled, and oil wells may be forced to shut down, the regime does not feel only a military threat. It feels a threat to its ability to function. And this is exactly where Hormuz enters the story. Tehran understands that if it loses the ability to threaten the passage of global oil, it will be left with very few cards. That is why it is not satisfied with firing weapons. It is trying to create a control mechanism, an official mechanism, an email address, a passage instructions, an Iranian corridor that includes licenses, advanced coordination, and everything that it needs to control the strait. It looks bureaucratic, but in reality, it's a military move wearing a civilian suit. Iran is telling ships, do not pass where the Americans tell you to pass. Pass only where we approve. And if you deviate, the Revolutionary Guards will respond. This is exactly why this event is so dangerous. The moment each side draws a different map, one civilian ship can find itself between two conflicting systems of command. The Americans can say that they are not looking for a confrontation. Rubio said that fire will only happen if they are fired upon. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that ceasefire is still holding, but underground ships are burning, forces are patrolling, and American aircraft are in the air around the strait. In images released by United States Central Command, F-16 aircraft were seen in the area, and those aircraft, APKWS rockets, were visible. Simple Hydra rockets upgraded with laser guidance. This is a very important weapon in this arena because it allows forces to intercept cheap drones without wasting missiles that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars or more. The detail says a lot about the nature of this war. Not every threat comes from a ballistic missile. Sometimes it is a speedboat. Sometimes it is a small drone. Sometimes it is a naval mine. Sometimes it is a launch from the coast. And sometimes it is only a radio warning, interrupted by the other side as an immediate threat. In the Persian Gulf, there is not much room for mistakes, and at the same time, the United States and the Gulf states are advancing a draft resolution at the United Nations Security Council to protect freedom of navigation in Hormuz. And Rubio said that the proposal was prepared together with Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Qatar. It demands that Iran stop attacking ships, stop leaving naval mines, and stop trying to collect passage fees. This is important. This is an important diplomatic point. If Trump pauses the operation for a few days, it does not necessarily mean that he's leaving the arena. He's building another arena. Military pressure at sea, economic pressure at the ports, diplomatic pressure at the United Nations, regional pressure with the Gulf states. And the Iranians understand this. That is why they are applying pressure somewhere else, the United Arab Emirates. The recent attacks on the Emiratis create a deep shock across the Gulf. Ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones were launched towards the country. A fire broke out on an oil facility in Fujairah. 3 Indian workers were wounded. Schools were closed. Flights were disrupted. Citizens received alerts. A country built on stability, commerce, ports, aviation, and an image of security found itself under direct Iranian fire. It is not a coincidence that Fallujah was hit. Fujairah sits outside the Persian Gulf. It is important because it allows parts of the energy movements to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. If Iran wants to show that even the bypass route is not immune, it will try to strike exactly there, not to conquer, not to win militarily, but to frighten the insurance companies, the ship owners, the investors, and the governments.